Hey guys, very good evening. Thank you, all of you on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn who are joining me. Today we are starting this live show in the evening because in the morning I had a hip replacement at 8:30 a.m. was not really conducive for this. All right. So this video is going to be divided into three parts. As you guys already know that this is going to be about this controversy of the shawarma causing dysentery and death, and what exactly is the science behind it, and whether the fact that shawarma is being made to look like something really bad and has to be avoided, is it scientifically based? We are going to look at it. So I'm going to break down certain points about shawarma and shigella initially and discuss about it, because my concern here is that the public should not think that by avoiding shawarma you're avoiding all stomach infections. My real concern is that we will not actually pay attention to the cause but think that this one name is the problem. We will all anyway end up getting infected if we don't understand the science behind stomach infections. So part 1 will be thinking about what has happened and what can we do about it. Part 2 will be about Shigella infection, because I think it's really important that all of us know about it. It won't be a very complicated medical lecture, but it'll be filled up with points which will really help you. Then the third thing is 5 simple steps you can take, not just to keep yourself safe from Shigella infection or Salmonella infection, okay, which commonly happens, but to keep yourself safe from any virus or bacteria which can affect you this summer. All right. So here we go. I'm Dr. Santosh Jacob. I'm an orthopedic surgeon from the beautiful city of Chennai, Tamil Nadu in India. I really believe that information is the first step towards beating any disease and towards having the confidence that we can lead a healthy life. And so today's video starts right here. So shawarma and shigella. What happened was, to those of you who are not from Chennai or South India and you do not know, um, in Kerala, in a district called Kasargod, a few students had shawarmas and they identified that all of them got sick. It was around 30 to 40 people, and in that, one girl had dysentery and she passed away. This is a really, really sad thing. There is no doubt about it, and we have to do everything which we can to stop events from this like happening. So the reason why shawarma has been ridiculed and put to shame, that it is because of the dish that this is happening, is for 4 reasons. One is shawarma is not an Indian food and it is not made for Indian climate. Yes, you're absolutely right. It is not. But we have, that is not reason enough for us to avoid shawarmas, because we have foods which are made by outside eateries which have very similar content to shawarmas, like kati rolls or frankies. Okay, so you have to be cautious that you just don't think that shawarmas are the issue. Yeah, anything which is produced by hand, by unclean hands, can cause similar issues. So let's make sure that all eateries on the outside where we go to, we have people who are wearing gloves and it is clean and the plates are washed properly. That is what is more important. It's not avoiding this food product. Point number 2, the grill is outdoor as it is very, very hot in shawarma shops. And as a result, the grill is exposed to the pollution outside, the germs and everything. Yes, absolutely right. The reason why shawarma shops, the shawarma grill is outside is because it's really, really hot. And yes, it is exposed to a lot of pollution. But all street food is. Every fried rice, which I have eaten, I love eating fried rice on the beach, it has been exposed to so much contamination. And I know for a fact that many of those places are not clean. So just because a shawarma grill is on the outside, it's not reason enough to think that only shawarma is responsible for this. Any eatery which uses an outdoor cooking area which is unclean can cause similar problems. Coming to point number 3, this is, of course, a brilliant point. They have identified that a lot of these places do not have the required long term storage for meat, and also they do not follow the protocols of short term storage. That is, if you're storing meat for a longer period of time, more than 6 weeks, it has to be stored in a stable refrigerator, which is at minus 16 to minus 18 degrees or lesser. And if you're storing it as a marinated food, depending upon the marinade, it has to be stored or refrigerated at minus 4 to plus 4 for a period of 48 hours. And if it is food which is being kept at room temperature in summer, the maximum amount of time it can be exposed is only 2 hours. So any eatery, not just a shawarma place, which does not have these setups or these protocols, they have to be checked and they have to be set right in order for us to be protected from stomach infections in summer. Then point number 4, again a very good point, mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is used extensively in shawarma, yes, but mayonnaise is used everywhere in every eatery. Tikka rolls also use mayonnaise, sandwiches use it, burgers use it. Any place where you want to add some richness to the dish in India, we use mayonnaise. And mayonnaise is made from raw eggs, and the point is absolutely right. When you use mayonnaise, you have to be very careful because it contains egg, and egg attracts a lot of bacteria and viruses, and egg has proteins in it which the viruses can absorb and grow. Yes, it is true. So how do we save ourselves from mayonnaise? I have a small trick. If you're eating outside, right, and the mayonnaise is warm, guys, avoid it, because mayonnaise has to be refrigerated as soon as it is prepared if it has to be good. If mayonnaise is sitting outside even for an hour or a couple of hours, there is a possibility that it could be infected. So yes, again, shawarma has mayonnaise, and of course, but that is not the reason that we have to stop shawarma alone. As eaters, I love shawarma. I will avoid shawarma if there is a valid reason. But I realize that I have to avoid any kind of eatery which does not give us these 4 points. So it is extremely important for us to understand the pattern of eateries which have to be avoided rather than the food which has to be avoided. So coming to point number 2 about Shigella. So Shigella is an enterobacteria, which means it's a bacteria which affects the stomach or the enteric system or the intestines. Now, the few things which are interesting about the Shigella is it does not have legs to move, but still it goes and infects a lot of areas in the stomach, and I will explain how it does it. Before that, Shigella is of 4 types. The main thing to know is about this type called dysentery. I will tell you why very soon. Then there is flexneri, boidy, and sonai. Sonai and flexneri are the commonest shigellosis causing Shigella all over the world. Dysentery is actually pretty rare. Coming to point number 3, which is the most important point. How does Shigella spread? So just remember F. Okay, it spreads by the feco-oral route. So when somebody who has Shigella in them has passed Shigella out through feces or urine or some bodily excretion, and that gets contaminated with what you eat, that is how Shigella spreads. So it can spread from any contaminated hand, any contaminated plate, any contaminated toilet, any food which is raw and unwashed, any food which is uncooked. Just if somebody who was infected with Shigella touches that plate or that food. Then with flies, if toilets are close by, if there are dirty areas nearby and flies enter, the Shigella infected feces and then come and sit on your food, you have an issue. Shigellosis could happen. And finally, food and water. Any food which has been contaminated by Shigella, if you eat, you can get infected by Shigella. And finally, Shigellosis can also spread through sexual contact. So these are the four ways in which Shigella infection can spread from one person to another. Now, there are three key points here about Shigella, which we have to know. See, the more we learn about Shigella, we will understand that Shigella is an entity on its own which has to be avoided and it has got nothing to do with shawarma. Yeah. So there are three key points in Shigella. So the first point is it is highly infectious. 10 bacterium are enough to infect you. That is point number one, key point about it. So steps to avoid it has to be really drastic. Yeah, because it's a highly infective bacteria. Two, you can stay infectious for 4 to 6 weeks. So if you've had a Shigella infection, you could be putting out the infection for 4 to 6 weeks. So you just need to universally form micro habits where you don't get infected and where you don't infect people with Shigella or Salmonella or anything which spreads this fast in summer. Then point number three, Shigella dysentery. I told you that I will talk about it later. Shigella dysentery has something in it which the other Shigellas don't have, called a Shiga toxin. So this Shiga toxin, what it does is when we swallow Shigella, it first goes to the small intestine and it multiplies in the small intestine. Once it has multiplied to a certain extent, it enters into the large intestine. Once it enters into the large intestine, the Shiga toxin, especially in the dysentery, can enter into the cells of the large intestine. So you have to understand that the large intestine is like a tube through which food goes. So just like if you have a virus on the skin which produces a rash, when Shigella is infected in your large intestine, it starts to go inside the cells of the large intestine, the mucosal cells. And it also affects the mucosal cells which have immune cells in them in the large intestine, because our large intestine has a lot of immune cells in order to remove all the toxins which we eat. But this Shigella enters into that immune cells called malt cells, and it spreads throughout the large intestine very, very fast, especially Shigella dysentery. So overall, flexneri and boidy, the common ones, just cause shigellosis, but Shigella dysentery has the toxin which can cause a more severe form of shigellosis, which can involve stuff like organ failure also. So you need to be very cautious in summer, especially choosing the places you eat and forming micro habits. It is very, very important in order to keep your stomach safe. So let's talk about the clinical phases. Generally, shigellosis, if I in most patients, will be just some abdominal cramping, some diarrhea with some mucus, and you'll have some vomiting sensation, loss of appetite, body pain, some fever. At that stage, guys, antibiotics, rehydration is more than enough. So just be woken up to these symptoms so that you're constantly just don't panic, but just be vigilant throughout summer. It's just another 2 more months. Then, if it progresses untreated, if you don't take the necessary antibiotics, it goes to a slightly advanced phase where you have bloody and mucus diarrhea, and it feels like you have pus in your stools. At this stage, you need help. It's very, very important. If any of your friends tell you that they're at this stage, take them to the hospital right away. And you will also have severe abdominal pain and you will have signs of dehydration. Okay, dehydration can kill. You don't need anything else. So you have to rehydrate if you have diarrhea or stomach infections of any form. Now, the severe stage, what happens? So this toxin which is there in the Shigella dysentery, it creates a series of events which cause clotting in the small blood vessels of the intestine. It also causes clotting in the small blood vessels of the kidney. And what happens is, because of this clotting, blood does not flow to certain areas of the kidney, and the blood vessels in the kidney, they get infected by the Shigella toxin and they start to break open, causing clots. And this causes a series of rare complications in untreated people with low immunity, like hemolytic uremic syndrome. Basically, the kidney fails, other organs fail, they might get a stroke. And if all this happens, they are very critically ill and it can also lead to death. But I have to stress that this is quite rare. Okay. But still, if something like this can happen, we've all learned from COVID that we need to be informed, stay informed so that we can protect ourselves. Now, you can, if you have a high suspicion of index and you go to your doctor and you take a basic antibiotic, you are good to go. You just have to hydrate yourself. So guys, have a high suspicion of index and go to your doctor if you have any stomach infection which is lasting for more than 48 hours. Okay, so this is it. Now, coming to my 5 steps on how you can keep yourself safe from any stomach infection this summer. Step 1 is any bacterial infection or viral infection, even Shigella, yeah, in summer. Science says that it is much more in raw vegetables, which have some crevices in them, and shellfish like prawns, lobsters, and crabs. So if you're avoiding something, avoid raw meat salads. Avoid salads in places where you're not sure if the cleanliness is good. Avoid salads which come from takeaway places. Those sliced onions, those carrots, especially if it feels like they are a bit stale, just avoid them. You have to, if you're having raw vegetables at home, they have to be washed clean. And non-vegetarian foods, please avoid anything raw like sushi or sashimi, and do not take uncooked raw meats, fish, chicken in any salad during summer. That's a good way to keep yourself safe. 2, trimming your nails and hand washing. See, many of these bacteria can produce spores and survive. And if you have nails with crevices, there is a very good possibility that it is not washed off, especially when you don't have proper hand washing techniques. During COVID, all of us were washing our hands for 30 seconds at least. And I want you guys to bring back that practice, especially before you eat and after you go to the toilet. This is one micro habit, trust me, which will save you a lot of pain. The micro habit of washing your hands, looking at the time, washing it for 30 seconds and then drying it. Because many bacteria do not get destroyed by hand sanitizers. You need to wash them with soap for at least 30 seconds in order to destroy them. This is the micro habit you need to create. It's very, very important. It will save you a lot of trouble. Then the third thing, I love going out to eat. I love street food. I love my tikka rolls. Like, I love eating fried rice in open places. Go to a place where you trust. Most of the places which you like, look at them with science and standard information. If you feel they're unclean, you can even go and talk to the vendor if you really know him. But guys, avoid unclean places. Look at how they clean the plates. It is very, very important. Plates have to be soaked in antibacterial solution for at least 10 minutes and then washed in eateries. If you feel that these places do not have infrastructure, they are too small and they will compromise, avoid those places, please, in order to avoid stomach infections. And then finally, not finally, point number 4. See, storage of raw meat For long term, it is minus 16 degrees, at least with stable electricity and no breaks. And for short term, depending upon the marinade, it is minus 4 to plus 4 degrees. That is for 48 hours. And also, freshly prepared food, even if it is at home, if you know that you have cooked the food and you're not going to eat it within the next 1 hour, please refrigerate it right away. Do it in summer. It really, really helps, because whatever we do, there are flies at home. Okay. And especially if you leave your food open, it's not a good idea. You can even get contaminated at home. So avoid that. And then finally, what are some on the counter medications which I take in order to protect my stomach actually throughout the year? I am on probiotics, that is lactobacillus. Lactobacillus is of two types. The commonest is acidophilus bacteria, and you can supplement it every day before your meals. So what this lactobacillus does is it keeps the good bacterial count high, so that the bad bacteria are fought off by the good bacteria. If the good bacteria are low, say maybe because of an infection, or you ate something too spicy, or you have acidity or stuff like that, then if you have an infection at that point of time, there is a possibility that because your good bacteria are lower, the infection could propagate. So always keep your stomach filled with good lactobacillus or probiotic bacteria. It is very, very important, especially in summer. Point number two, I intermittently fast regularly, but studies are showing that if you intermittent fast, especially a 12 to a 16-hour fast once a week, by having just water and a lot of fresh juices, it really balances the toxins out of your intestine and your stomach. And it also balances the equilibrium of the organisms there, and maintains your pH as you're giving rest to your entire stomach. And your stomach is ready, your intestines are ready to continue working for another week. So intermittent fasting with a lot of hydration would be a very, very good idea if you do not have acute gastritis, especially. Then I use a combination of teas, that is ginger, turmeric, and peppermint. So each of them, they stimulate certain cells which balance secretions in your stomach. Some of them stimulate secretion of leptin, which is your satiety hormone. Some of them stimulate acid formation there. Some of them even stimulate digestive enzymes. Ginger, turmeric, and peppermint teas. So in this video, we've gone from understanding or trying to figure out how we have to think about and understand this Shigella shawarma episode. Two, we learned everything about Shigella more or less. And three, we identified 5 simple steps in order to keep ourselves safe from stomach infections this summer. All right, guys, if you have any questions, please write it down. Let me know in the comments below. I will answer those questions. And also, if you like the content of this show, share, like, subscribe, and also press the notification button so that you get regular updates. Signing off from the beautiful city of Chennai, where summer has taken a break. And we've had like 2 days of really good, I would say, December weather, and we're all very, very happy. Keep yourselves safe, guys. Follow the rules. Bye bye. Take care.